Poker Stories is an audio series that features casual interviews with some of the game's best players and personalities. Each episode highlights a well-known figure in the poker world and dives deep into their favorite tales, both on and off the feld.
That's right, it's time for another edition of Poker Stories, brought to you by Card Player, the Poker Authority. I want to start out by giving a huge thanks to everyone who went out and subscribed, downloaded, rated, or reviewed our podcast on iTunes. In the first week alone, we had listeners from all over the world, including places like Spain, the Netherlands, Australia, Germany, Israel, where else? Norway, Thailand, South Africa, even Singapore. That's great, guys, and we really appreciate the support. Today's episode features Brian Rast, who let me into his Las Vegas mansion, gave me some beer, and then opened up about his life as a poker pro. Brian is one of the best all-around players, and he currently sits in 10th place on the all-time tournament earnings list with $18.7 million. He won the Super High Roller Bowl in 2015 for $7.5 million. And he also won the 50K Poker Players Championship twice in 2011 and 2016. And on top of all of that, he also plays in some of the biggest cash games in the world. Oh, and Brian is also an owner and operator of the WSOP School of Poker and 3Bet Poker Clothing. So this was a big get for the show. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Brian Rast. So how you been though? Like you've been okay? Family good? Holidays were fun?
Holidays, we were down in Mexico.
Okay.
Families, they're doing well. He's finishing up the 8th grade, loving soccer. That's his like major focus for our son, and you know we're talking about maybe having a baby this year, and.
This could be a big year
in
the Rast household.
We moved out to this house and, you know, we're getting it set up. You know, the goal ultimately is, like, this is a good house to, like, entertain. I mean, obviously this whole central area with the thing, and we're going to do that. So, you know, we kind of want to get a little bit of a community thing going on in Las Vegas. Like, Brazilian style barbecues are called churrascos, or just have people over and you know. So feels like a lot of little things are getting set up, and beyond that, I mean, I feel pretty good. I've been doing a 10-minute meditation for a week now. It was recommended to me by a couple people. First, like Dan Smith, but other people, and like I think this is great. Actually, maybe you see this little thing next to you right here. I just bought this because this was recommended by Elliot Rowe, and this is like a tool to like. Basically assist. It like keeps track of your brain patterns while you're meditating, and then
so it tracks what you're thinking,
not what, but just like how often you're like disturbed or like regular or like calm.
Oh, okay. So you can see if you're actually shutting your brain down.
Yeah, you can see like how much of that you're actually doing. So you know, it's something. This is like something that I'm starting to explore a little bit. I mean,
so you put that on for like 10 minutes a day, and you're just like. How?
This I've only had for 2 days.
Okay.
Just the 10-minute meditation I've been doing for like a week, but yeah. So
what method do you use to like clear the head?
Well, I mean,
in my brain, I just be like, I'm thinking about nothing.
I've been doing Headspace, which is like this thing, and it's kind of like a guided that's trying to teach you principles.
Okay.
So really, it's not like just 10 minutes of sitting there. Although this, when I've done the 5 minutes on this, it's pretty much just sitting there. Although it has like musical cues to let you know which of the states you're in. So when you're like calm or disturbed or whatever, and so you know, I even feel like since I've started doing it, I've felt like a little bit more focused. I mean, I think like one of the issues I tend to have. Is this actually going or?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I don't care.
One of the issues I have a little bit as a poker player is like. I mean, my life is really kind of like unfocused. Mm-hmm. It's not like I have, you know, like this set job and all these like parameters.
You don't have the 9 to 5.
Yeah. So kind of sometimes it's like if I have these to-do lists and whatever, it can be pretty easy for me sometimes to say, well, I'm feeling lazy. You know, this type of stuff isn't really that important. This is my like earn per hour when I'm playing. I'm just gonna like put this stuff off. But I feel like I can have times when I get pretty unproductive. So I think
because you don't have a boss to say go to work.
Yeah,
you
and
don't
just
have an alarm
sometimes
clock telling you when to get up.
Or even just like I'm used to having a pretty unstructured life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes things outside of my job can feel a little bit unimportant. But I'll say like the meditation practice has helped me like focus on other things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's been a number of things. I mean, I work with Elliot Rowe some, and that's helped. But just in general, the act kind of meditating, clearing your mind, and then afterwards thinking about things you want to do, talking with someone about things like that, which is what I end up doing with Elliot Rowe,
mm-hmm.
occasionally in hypnotherapy. It's not always just about poker.
Really?
But like, yeah, those kind of things have helped me a lot. I mean, the hypnotherapy, not just in poker, but just like in my life, to be a little bit more focused. Because, I mean, I still feel good when I'm getting things done, checked off my to-do list, whether they're for the family or for me, or, you know, I mean, just like being more active, you know, going to the gym,
yeah,
you know, just whatever it is. I mean, there's just a lot of things. And I find that, you know, it is true that time is short and it's hard to have enough, but at the same token, oftentimes, you know, we end up wasting a lot of time too. So, and I'm not saying I always waste it on things that are totally, completely unproductive. I mean, like,
yeah.
I'll watch YouTube videos that are educational and go down a little 2-hour YouTube hole learning things. I'll get sidetracked playing some chess, or I'll be doing things that are using my brain in some way. But I think
this keeps you focused.
Yeah, I think sometimes having a way of organizing my thoughts a little bit and thinking, oh, how much of that do I want to be doing versus, you know, I have these things that are building up. I need to be spending some time on those. I feel like I've gained a couple of pounds, or I'm a little out of shape, or whatever. And so, I don't know. It's like a constant process of self-betterment.
But do you feel like you were scattered before?
Sometimes.
Or your attention moved too quickly from one thing to the next?
I think it kind of depends on when. You know, I go through, I think before it's like I go through periods where I'm kind of good at stuff and times where I'm not so good and my attention is scattered and I move on from one thing to the next.
Well, let's go back to Poway. What was Poway like growing up in Poway, California?
Poway.
I screw that up every time.
Poway people. No, it was nice. I mean, it's like a suburb, just like a big suburb, basically. I mean, it was outside of San Diego, so Southern California, good weather. As a kid there, I don't know, I have good memories. Like, my life was good, it was stable. I mean, I pretty much, when we moved there when I was 9, just lived there through high school. I mean, my parents are still basically there. I mean, my mom, they have the same house, so it's a nice spot. I mean, I think if you didn't have a family, you'd probably feel like maybe it was a little boring.
Okay.
But
your family kept it interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, growing up, I was a kid, so it was great for me. There was, friends, like things to do.
What were you into? We know you were smart because you got into Stanford, so you were obviously keeping up with your grades. But what did little Brian Rast get into? I
mean, I liked playing sports. I was never really good, but I was like okay. I almost made our high school had like 3,000 kids, so the sports were pretty
That's a
competitive.
big high school.
Yeah, and I was one of the last 2 people cut. I tried the hardest to make the basketball team in my sophomore year.
You're a pretty tall guy, though.
Yeah, and I was actually pretty good. I was one of the last 2 people cut, and that year in the rec basketball league, I was actually the highest scorer.
Okay.
So I was a pretty good basketball player. Beyond that, I was involved in other school activities, like the speech and debate team was probably one of the biggest ones, but stuff like Quiz Bowl, it's like where, it's like 5-on-5 and you buzz in, and if you get it right, then you get another question.
I remember I was in the
captain.
National Honor Society,
Okay.
So that's where they chose the pool of Quiz Bowl team members. And one day, they happened to be scraping the bottom of the barrel and needed me to sub in.
Yeah.
And I believe we almost got swept on every single question at the Quiz Bowl that day.
That's
the only question I got right, and I still remember this, was they asked who invented basketball. Of course, I said James A. Naismith.
Yeah, Naismith.
And the other team didn't know it. And that was our only point of the entire competition.
That's what I'm talking about. Cheers. Cheers to Naismith. Basketball's it's my favorite sport. It's right here.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I did that. I mean, I was the captain my senior year. We actually went to the city championships. We were pretty
in
good.
the Quiz Bowl, not basketball.
In the Quiz Bowl, yes, not basketball. That would have been cooler. I would have liked that more, but I wasn't good enough at basketball for that. So, but we lost. But
no fault of your own, I'm sure.
You know, it was good. We did pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
made it pretty far. You know, it's good enough. I don't actually even remember what happened in that match. What else? I actually do have a little odd, like, ego boost memory from the match before the finals.
Okay.
We played some other team.
Where you came through in the clutch.
I think like Torrey Pines, and well, I had a good match.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got a lot of the entrance like quiz buzz-ins before whatever, and like one of the ladies of moms, someone from the other team after the match said like, "Oh wow, you were excellent. Like, what college are you going to?" And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Stanford." She's like, "Wow, awesome." Just for some reason I remember that it just stood out to me. In part because like I did have a really good match at the time. No, I mean I was academically if I really think about what I did in high school, it was pretty impressive. I mean I did that. I went to state championships in speech and debate. The 2 years that I did it, I only did it my junior and senior year.
So you're very persuasive.
I think I am a pretty persuasive arguer.
You got me to drink a beer, but when I just got here.
Yes. But see, you're liking it though.
I
do
do
it for
like
your own
it.
interest.
I do like it. Our producer Eric is going to be very proud that I'm drinking Chimay instead of my usual.
Oh no, the red Chimay. Tell him it's the red one. That's my favorite.
The red Chimay.
Yes.
Okay, so you're obviously.
But beyond that, like sports and I like video games.
Okay.
I wasn't a big TV watcher.
Okay.
TV was boring for me a little, but I played video games. Most of the video games I played were a lot of strategy games.
You're what, 35, 36?
35, yes.
35. So I'm trying to picture what even TV was like for you in high school.
I think X-Files.
Okay.
That was
Beavis
one
and
show I
Butthead,
watched
maybe?
a little bit. What?
Beavis and Butthead?
I think
That
that was
era?
on. I watched occasionally, but I mean not. Like I really didn't watch that much TV, so it's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was it because your parents were just like, no TV, Brian.
no.
Put your nose in a book.
My deal was like, I was a pretty self-motivated kid. My parents didn't have to get on me.
Okay.
I pretty much just did my work. I chose to go in like the honors AP route, and their deal was kind of like, well, if I do my work and I get good grades, then I can kind of like do what I want with my time. There'd be some times when if I'd come home from school and maybe I hadn't started working at some point, I would get prompted like, hey, maybe stop playing the video game or maybe start, but it wasn't like
N64.
Yes, GoldenEye.
See?
GoldenEye was
At least I've clocked the right system.
Yeah. No, and Super Nintendo. I was a Nintendo, so Super Nintendo. But by high school, it was more like N64.
Yeah.
So and it was, I actually lived close to our high school, so friends would walk back. Like my school was like a hangout. My mom would like bring us all snacks, and we'd like do homework and play video games. High school, like when people look back and we're like, oh, when were like the good years?
Yeah.
For me, it was more high school than college.
Yeah. Stanford is just awful.
I mean, it was like okay, whatever. I mean, I was kind of not academically motivated.
Well, you said you were very self-motivated in high school.
Yes.
So what happened? What happened that when you got to Stanford, where it all? Because you majored in math, right?
Yeah, I did. I wish I had picked philosophy. Actually,
Really?
might have actually got a degree. I think if I did philosophy, I think. Well, the problem when I first went to high school, it was a mixture of I remember early my freshman year, I was like depressed because I just broke up with my high school girlfriend.
Oh, your freshman year of college.
She just broke up with me.
Okay.
And then
you can remember it however you want.
And then I was like, went down a Counter-Strike.
Wait, have you talked to her recently? Does she regret her decision?
No,
have you looked her up?
I haven't talked to her. I don't know, and I would never ask her that question.
You know she Googled you. Number 10 on the all-time tournament earnings list.
You know, I have no idea what she's thinking. I wish her all the best, you know? Hope she's... I'm pretty sure last I heard, like, so years ago, she was married to someone, and so, you know, I hope she still is, and everything's good. I mean, you know, like... At the time, I was upset about it. Mm-hmm. You know, especially some of the way the things shook out without getting into specifics, but, like... I mean, you know, we were 18 or 19. Sometimes you're just not supposed to be with that person. You kind of, you know, I'm old now. I realize that, and it's all good, you know? I mean, I've broken up with someone too. So, you know, sometimes it's just the time to move on.
Yeah.
In reality, you know, I had already kind of also moved to, you know, you start to realize after, like, I had kind of already moved on from things too. And
so you were a freshman and she'd gone to a different school or something?
Yeah, she was going to Berkeley and I was going to Stanford, so we thought maybe it would continue. But, you know, like that summer I decided to go to like a couple raves.
Uh-huh.
I did ecstasy. You know, those were things that she didn't really like. She was like, that was a little out there. I was, you know, maybe making my own choices in certain things. And, you know, that's just the way it goes.
But Linda, I'm a freshman in college. I have to experiment. Her name wasn't Linda, was it?
No.
Okay.
So
wait, I gotta ask you, Stanford. What, like, did you ever look at any like ridiculously tough classes? Because people think Stanford, they think, oh my gosh, you know, that's hard. That's a tough degree to get. You know,
it's weird because Stanford was really like the time of my life where I was like the least motivated to learn.
Okay.
I mean, really, recently I love learning. I like subscribe to science YouTube channels, like I'm gonna shout out some of them right now, like PBS Space Time, which they just talk about like cosmological topics. It's like very in like a pretty in-depth manner. PBS has a new one, Infinite Series. They talk about math stuff. Like I'm basically like a full-on, totally cool with it nerd.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I love learning. I love learning about things. Like at the gym today, where I was for like 30 minutes, I listened to some like biology YouTube videos. The guy was talking about, you know, what the current scientific thought about how life like evolved from nothing, like some of the ideas.
What are the latest
you
thoughts?
know so it was the thought was one video was about how cooperation between like you know, DNA and then like the mitochondria in the cell, like becoming, because they found out whatever 50 years ago that mitochondria were like other organisms that basically became like part of the cell, and then like a cooperative environment. And then how, you know, I mean, our body itself is like a cooperative environment of like trillions of cells that are all alive and separate, but, you know, are now functioning to make us like some kind of multicellular organism, you know? So it was just about like some of those stages. And then there was another video that was talking about certain, you know, that they're thinking that through chemical processes, that was my dog. Chemical processes, she's bored. She was like, oh no, he's talking about science again. You know, the life came to be from inorganic, you know, materials combining, and how some of that might happen. So you geek out. I geek out on a lot of topics. And in fact, a problem I have had throughout my poker career is poker has gotten boring to me, because, you know, I'm just like, I don't want to learn this anymore. And when I feel like, I mean, as good as I play poker, and, you know, as much time as I have over 14 years put into it, if I put even more from time to time, I could play even better. And, you know, I realize that, and, you know, that does have an impact perhaps, but
then again, you're probably good enough
learning other stuff.
You're probably good enough right now to game select for the rest of your career.
Yes and no. I mean, the problem is that I feel like I've kind of reached a point where I don't really have that many like good games that are, I'm not getting like called to go play in private games.
Yeah.
You know, like
the ultimate compliment. You're not allowed to play here.
So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of games in LA, and I know a bunch of people that play in them, and I'm not getting like the call to like, hey, come play in our nice private game. So the public poker sector is just every year getting more competitive as like tools are coming out. Now there's tools to like study the game theory, optimal way to play. And actually, about a year ago, I kind of started to get into some of that more, and I have been spending more. Have been spending more of my time. I've been spending more of my time refocusing on learning poker, both no limit hold'em through a more like GTO approach of learning, using like software and stuff, and then mixed games, and not with programs, but more from like studying and talking with people and getting a coach and stuff like that, which will.
Are the programs not there yet for mixed games, or is it more that
not that I know
feel is more valuable in those?
Definitely not that feel is more valuable in those, but I would just say its programs aren't developed as far as I know to the point where like some of the like PO Solver and some of the no limit GTO solvers are. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would. One day maybe there will be some programs and I'll start using them, but not that I know of too. As of now, most mathematical work that gets done in those games, as far as I know, is people kind of like doing their own stuff.
You're not the first person I've talked to that talked about solvers. A few others were embarrassed to even admit to it. But do you think you could even get to your level without them these days?
I mean, these days.
If somebody was to start from scratch.
I pretty much got to my level without solvers.
Yeah.
I've made a few tweaks in the last year, essentially, using them. But, so yeah, I think it could. It's just, it's harder. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, what's the fastest way to learn something? And as, like, more efficient and better tools come out, you can kind of learn the right way to play faster. And, even, like, solvers it's funny, like, I don't even care about talking about it because in my opinion, it's like one of those things that like almost everyone knows about.
Exactly.
And and
it's the elephant in the room no one wants to talk about.
And really, if you don't know about it, then, kind of another thing too is like using them the right way, which is what I'm about to say, is that solvers will spit out these answers sort of to spots, assuming that you put in the parameters correctly, and interpreting it does take like a little bit of good judgment and knowledge about the game, because for one thing, like solvers will spit out like the answer to your range in a lot of spots is like a lot of hands are mixed, like it's saying bet this like 70% of the time and check it like 30% of the time, and like most hand combos are mixed like a lot of the time. There's just not that many like pure answers, so it's kind of like.
And if it is pure, you probably know it anyway.
No, not necessarily, but I guess my point more with that is like, it's almost impossible for a human to like implement a mixed strategy, especially if you weren't at a computer maybe if you were at a computer with a thing and you saw it, you could just use like a random number generator if you somehow had your range printout at every spot, which computers aren't fast enough to do right now.
Yeah.
You could maybe implement it sort of, which would be pretty simple. But if you just look at some ranges and it's like all these hands are mixed and you somehow try to take that away and you're playing live and you're like, our brains don't work that way.
Yeah.
We're not, in fact, that's one of the reasons why I think, who is it? Like the Donger and all those guys are playing Liberatus right now. And it's like one of the advantages in heads up no limit hold'em for sure that the bot will have over them is bots can like perfectly implement, a mixed strategy.
Yeah, they have the stats of how often they've done X versus Y in this spot so they can stay balanced.
Or when they like, boom, they take a turn spot and they're like, oh, this hand's supposed to be like 70-30 and whatever, then they do it 70-30.
Exactly, whereas a human's just guessing.
Yeah,
estimating
what not only are you estimating in the moment, like if it's mixed or not, and if so, how much, which is an estimation, and then you've got to try to say, oh, well, okay, well then how am I doing the random number generation? It's a very hard thing for people to implement. So I think when you play, most people, I'm not saying every single person, you need to look at solvers and try to take away other things from the hand, like whose range is ahead on this flop? What does that mean about how I should play it? What is the bet sizing that seems to be preferred, and why do I think that is? What type of hands am I betting and then bluffing down with? What type of hands am I tend to not bluff or give up with? And certain things like that. And then once you take away those things, I think it can help you like use the solver a lot more.
Were you drawn to poker because of the math behind the game? I assume you picked it up at Stanford.
That's where I really kind of started playing more. It wasn't the first time I played. I actually played with some buddies in high school, but like super infrequently. But yeah, I was drawn to kind of like a lot of things about it. So first, I loved playing games, like, video games, strategy games, whatever. And so I was drawn to, I went down a Counter-Strike hole my first year in college.
Yeah.
Like after the girlfriend thing, then I played Counter-Strike all year. I mean, like very seriously. I was serious about my Counter-Strike. I was probably the most serious at Stanford University. And I can't say that about every college because but almost nobody I played with at Stanford was any good and played a lot of Counter-Strike. They were too focused. It's like I talked to friends from high school or people who went to less rigorous colleges, and they were like, yeah, we had like LAN parties and played Counter-Strike all weekend. And I was like, yeah, that was like me. And I didn't know anyone else doing it. So
it was just me by myself.
So I was just always loved games. But at some point it was kind of like, well, maybe I'll quit playing Counter-Strike because it's really not doing anything for my life, and so I'm gonna stop and focus on school for this next year. But yeah, it's like once I started playing poker, it was kind of like, great, well, I can play a game that's really complicated and fun, like chess or like whatever, but I can make some money at it.
Yeah, there's a goal that makes sense.
Yeah, so it was like something I could get out of it. So it's like I had a clear benefit from playing poker. It was like making money. And I mean, I pretty much started making money from, the first summer that I took it seriously, I made like 20K. Starting playing limit hold'em in casinos and no limit hold'em on the internet.
Oh wow, it was a fast progression.
Yeah, I just reading books, playing poker. I had a couple friends, high school friends, who would go with me sometimes to the casino back in Poway. And so it became a little group activity on the weekends that we would do. And
were you running the math yourself on certain spots, or did you just look them up?
More just playing limit hold'em, it was I was reading stuff in books. So a lot of it was more the logic of how first I was taking a lot of precepts about what hands books said I was supposed to be playing.
Starting hands.
Good. Yeah, and then
I think Lee Jones had the limit hold'em book at the time.
That was one of my. I think that was one of the best books for me starting out.
Small Stakes Hold'em by Ed Miller.
I didn't read that one. I read the Lee Jones. I read a couple Sklansky books. Sklansky had a hold'em for intermediate players or advanced players. He had Theory of Poker. There were a couple other books, one or two, some Pot Limit by Bob Ciafone. Those were some of my start out books.
Did you read the Caro's Book of Tells? I remember being really drawn to that book because I thought poker was all about finding the guy who's twitching and reading his soul. You know what I mean? I was so obsessed with live tells.
I did, but I kind of always felt like I never got that much out of it. And just playing poker, made sense to me. So I tried to focus more on cards.
Badly wanted poker to be like the movies.
Yeah, just
Teddy KGB's twisting an Oreo cookie,
I think there are probably some people who definitely get more out of that. Mm-hmm. There are people that have a very quick, intuitive feel for what someone else is feeling.
There are a couple tried and true tells that are just always work against certain people. My favorite one is small stakes players, 1-2, whatever. People who, when the flop comes out, they immediately glance down at their chips, really quick. Yeah. That's almost always because they hit the flop. Otherwise, they wouldn't care how many chips they had behind.
Yeah.
That one's pretty true most of the times. But if I saw you do it, I wouldn't read too much into it. You know what I mean?
Although, it's just one of those things you shade it a little bit. Tells are you're shading,
Mm-hmm.
You're shading what you think about, You know, what types of hands does he have? You know, I mean, even good players sometimes, like very practiced players, like subconsciously do something quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, those type of things, like things that happen immediately and fast, are oftentimes the best tells. Like not when someone's been sitting there.
Yeah,
for
when your
20
body
seconds
betrays you and you can't help it.
So, because especially in like a long session, you know, everyone has moments where they're just like a little distracted and they're like maybe I was like I'll be on the phone, the flop will come out. I'll look and then I'll look down at my chips, but just because I was like, I'm not really in the mode like I'm playing this hand.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm setting everything.
Even the best are
emotionally
guilty.
even keeled. So I was distracted, and so I do something in a distracted state of mind that would be different than a focused state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it happens to everybody, but yeah.
So like 2011 was the big year where Brian Rast arrived on the scene, right?
It was a good year for me.
You'd been around, obviously, but that was the year you hit 2 bracelets, including the 50K. Do you feel like, and that was also the year of the start of your streak, because congratulations, you're now the only person to do it, 6 years in a row of 7 figures or more?
Yes, I believe that's true.
Yeah, because Daniel didn't do it last year. I think Daniel only made like 350K last year. So
there we go.
That's the answer to the trivia question.
Yeah.
Who holds the longest streak?
I knew that. Because this streak was made aware. Someone wrote an article about this going into 2006 or 15 maybe or something.
Okay.
And there was like 4 of us who had done 4 years in a row. And then in 2015, Daniel and I did it. And then I guess last year.
And that tied Eric Lindgren, who had done it like
4.
a few years earlier.
So I mean, it's like a cool streak, but you know, it's not. It's definitely harder to do it back when Eric Lindgren did it. Mm-hmm. I mean, nowadays there's like enough high rollers that I mean, there's actually a chance that if I have a bad year in tournaments this year, that I might not get it because I'm, like I didn't go to Aussie Millions this year. I've never been a big tournament traveler, but yeah, I don't really.
You said that last year, by the way, because just to remind you, we talked not this past December, but 2 Decembers ago, the last time you were on the Card Player cover, and you said the same thing. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I don't play that many tournaments. Then you went ahead and won the 50K again.
Last year I did go to Aussie Millions though, and I did, But yeah, no, it's true. I mean, the thing that really helps with it, even not traveling now, is these Aria high rollers.
Yeah.
Every month there's like 50, 75K or something worth of action, and they're rebuys. So it's like,
and you've done well with
those. It would, yes. I mean, I've done pretty well. I mean, I haven't been one of might need to rename it to the Tom Marchese Invitational.
Tom
Marchese's done super well in them. But
with Kerry Katz permanently slotted for third place.
Kerry Katz has done well. But yeah, no, I mean, I had a cold streak in them last year for a while, actually. Mm-hmm. I mean, I played it for a decent amount of last year. I mean, not during the summer, but I mean, I didn't cash in any of them until late. And then like later in the year, I had a couple like nice cashes in them. It probably, basically got me even on those for the year. I mean, the buy-ins rack up in that. I mean,
no, I think you cashed for a little over $1 million in those.
Oh yeah, and then the other. But I mean, the thing is, I probably had maybe I had $1 million worth of buy-ins in those. I mean, I mean, even in the ones I won, take like the 100K, so it's 100K, and then 25. But there was some 25s and 50s. Some of there were times I was probably in like 3 or 4 buys in a couple of the 25s. Yeah. And I probably played like 15 of them or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
So you're talking like probably 800K at least in buy-ins and 25, couple 50K. It adds up.
Well, let's talk about your 2016, because 2015 was obviously the best year ever, because super high roller bowl, you can't beat that score, right? But then 2016 didn't start off great for you.
No. Bad first 3 months in cash games too. It was a decent sized downswing for me. I mean, maybe my biggest net dollar downswing, not my biggest percent. I mean, downswing, but yeah.
And we don't have to harp on it, but there was also the fight that didn't go well to start off the year.
The fight, I mean, that maybe that kicked off the whole thing, because
Yeah.
that's really around when the downswing started.
You
I lost to Sorrell.
You versus Sorrell.
So
it didn't go your way.
Did not go my way.
I don't know if you've talked about it post fight or anything like that.
Yeah, actually, I just, for the first time in like a year, I just had a boxing workout yesterday with the guy who I was training with for that fight. I was like, man, I haven't been working out, so I'm just gonna call over Jason and get in like just a workout here at boxing.
So after the fight, you were just like, I need a break.
Oh yeah, I didn't do any boxing last year.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I did some biking. Got into biking.
Yeah. Okay, so you lose the boxing bet. You're losing in cash game, because I do remember you posting something, maybe it was a tweet or a Facebook post or something like that, saying that the bike bet got you even for the year.
Oh, the bike bet helped a lot. I mean, I was stuck a lot. Well, I mean, it wasn't just one bike bet.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the bike bet.
There
because
were
obviously
3 bike bets.
Yeah.
I actually wrote about them on my... Go to brianrast.com. Go to my blog.
For the lazy
And there were
illiterates, can you sum it up?
Yeah, so there were 3 bike bets. There also was Dan Bilzerian's bike bet. And now I actually bet more on Dan than I'd ever bet on a prop bet or anything before. Like a couple 100,000 or something.
You were sure Dan was gonna do it.
I mean, Dan's like my buddy, so I was talking to him.
Dan Bilzerian, everyone knows him.
And it was just like, wow, he has 2 months to train to do something that, like, I mean, yeah, it's like super tough and it's like definitely going to be really hard and grueling. But, you know, like if you're going to like make it like your mission with 2 months of training, I'm like, can he do this? And he could... This ended up being a controversial thing, but like talking to him about it, he was like, yeah, like I can draft, and that ended up becoming controversial.
Yeah. I
seemed
remember.
to think that he could do it, and that's why he did it. So I'm like, wow, like I think this is just like a great spot. So, I mean, I bet, whatever.
He's obviously a physical specimen. He's in great shape, right?
He is in good shape, but it's not really the kind of shape that necessarily translates to biking.
He's bulky.
He's bulky.
Yeah.
He's shorter.
But here's the, I don't know Dan. I haven't talked to him for more than 30 seconds in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know you. You obviously know him better than I do. But I would be so worried that this guy has so much money that he might get halfway through and be like, this isn't even worth it. Who cares?
Yeah, but Dan's like, Dan's still. It's more than that. I mean, like, he made this bet. It was public. Everyone knows about it. I mean, he just looked like a huge wuss, if he just bailed out halfway through.
Because it was hard.
Because it was hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like even against his whole, like, persona.
Yeah.
Like, balls to the wall. I mean, shit. That looked really bad for him publicly. But, I mean, also, like, even though he does have a lot of money, Dan's, like, the type of person that still... doesn't like losing and likes winning, and just having played with him in poker games, and I mean, yeah, you're right. It's not like make or break money for him, but it's at 600 whatever. Plus, he had some side action. He probably had almost a $2 million swing between winning $1 million or losing $1 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like.
So you benefited.
So I just felt like, and the other thing is, while this is a really difficult task, to me. With 2 months of training, it seemed like a task that, like, basically barring an accident or some kind of crazy injury, he seemed like a massive favorite.
2 months of training with Lance Armstrong.
I mean, Lance helped him like once or twice.
Doesn't
Lance
matter.
was not his
the
like
PR.
main
The
coach.
PR alone on that one was
Yeah.
worth it. Was worth flying Lance in. For those who don't know,
he whacked that.
What was the terms of bet? So he rode his bike from Las Vegas to Los Angeles in 36 hours?
No, he did it in like 32 hours.
32.
But he had 48.
He had 48.
He smoked it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a great bet.
So then how did your bet come up where you had to basically repeat the same thing?
So I had to do this, but no drafting and no training.
Mm-hmm.
So I had made this other bet I had a bet. I was in the Big Bet Mixed Poker game. I made a bet. I had to bike 280 miles on a course of my choosing. Couldn't really be downhill, so I picked going south on Highway 1 in California. I had to leave in like 4 days. I could train in the 4 days, but like how much training can you really do in 4 days?
Yeah, you just exhaust yourself too.
Yeah, so like, you know, I could basically get used to the bikes, maybe do like 1 day of like real training or something before. And then, and I got laid 10-1. So this was no drafting and no training, you know, but I could choose the route, which ended up actually, in my opinion, that was like a massive plus on my side. And so someone apparently talked to the guy that I made the bet with, and he got really scared and like bought out for like actually like a pretty decent number. So then I won that bet, and to do that bet, I gave Dan 25% of the action to basically be my coach, set me up with everyone that he was working with, and like take care of everything. Like I used his orange recumbent bike, which you can see a picture of on, you know, my website when I wrote the blog, and just like I had everything. I didn't have to worry about anything. He was just gonna basically tell me what to do, and that's it. And you know, so when we bought out of that bet, he came over to my house 2 days later on like Saturday, the day I would have had to ride on the Pacific Coast Highway, and we had a little barbecue over here. And basically he like came over, and he had a little bit of an axe to grind. Because like I was like, man, Dan, because even for the buyout, which was like a decent, like we got like a decent buyout, you know, it was like over 40% of like the total I could have won.
Wow.
I mean,
so this guy was really scared.
Yes, when I was late 10-1. But Dan, and I was like, Dan, and I was telling Dan, I'm like, Dan, I think that I'm just telling you, like, I'll take this buyout, but because Dan and the coach kind of thought like I should take the buyout and whatever. And I'm like, I'll do it because for social lubrication reasons, get paid instantly. I don't have to do anything. I was playing poker with this other guy, and that would keep him happy because he really wanted to buy out.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'll just take the buyout. But I'm like, Dan, I'll tell you, like, I think that I'm giving up equity in buying out. Like, I believe.
You thought you were a lock.
No, but I'm like, I think I'm definitely over, like, I think I'm over 50% to do this. Like, I think I am. Because in the training, I had gone out on the recumbent bike, and the first 2 days, like Tuesday and Wednesday, the two days when I didn't do anything hard. I think he bought out on Thursday, but I was gonna like just recover a little bit. But on Tuesday I rode like 20 miles on the recumbent, and on Wednesday I rode like 30.
Yeah.
And after the 30-mile ride, and I was like, while I was getting the massage, I'm like, damn, I'm like not even that sore.
Yeah.
And like that day I was like, there was some wind. It was out in the Red Rock, but I'm like, you know what? I think I can do this. So like I had no fucking idea when I made the bet. I was just getting laid a huge price and I was going to give it a shot. But after riding 20 and 30 miles, and I'm like,
so you got confident, and then Dan said, wait.
So yeah, so then that weekend he's like, oh, you idiots, you and my brother, you guys think this is so fucking easy.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you can't do it. But of course, you know, he shifted it a little bit to not be the ride I was going to do. Mm-hmm. He shifted it to be
the ride he did.
He did.
Yeah.
But like no drafting. You got to leave tomorrow. And I'm like,
here, chug these 12 beers tonight.
and you know, I knew that there were like some differences, but the thing is like I kind of wanted to try it. Like after I accepted the other bet, you know, I had started psyching myself up because it's like
you didn't get to go. You're disappointed.
Yeah, it's like a mental like preparation thing almost. I was kind of like, I'm gonna do this. Like I can fucking do this. And then when we bought out, I was kind of like, I would have done it. And Dan was, you know, it's one thing to say like, oh, I would have done.
So what did you get laid on that one?
So then I got laid 6-1 on this one with Dan. And then like right after I accepted the bet, because I wasn't allowed to do any research. So Dan says he didn't look. He says he didn't know. But then right after I accepted the bet, we looked, or we called like the coach guy, and he like was like, oh, I looked at the wind map, and like you're gonna have like intense headwinds the next day. You have like no chance of doing this. You need to try to get out of the bet. And of course, they didn't let me out of the bet.
Dan's got weather.com on his phone.
Who knows? He says he didn't look.
Okay.
So he says he didn't look, but you know, so then I'm like, oh, let me buy out for like, I'll buy out for like $5,000. And he's like, no, Bill Perkins like already bought the flight. You can't cancel private jets, so you'd have to pay for at least the cover of the flight. It's like $40K. I'm like,
yeah, not worth it.
I guess I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was only risking 100, so So then, yeah, I was in. I had the bike coach that Dan used on his thing, Nate, told me, you have no chance of doing this. And I'm like, well, I can't get out of the bet. And he's like, well, I guess you got to give it a good old college try. I will always remember that. Because it's like right after
The guy who just...
fucking college try. What kind of college? That was a real try. That was a manly try right there.
But the guy who successfully coached Dan to do it was saying you had no shot.
Said I had no chance.
Yeah.
That I could not do this. And I mean, here's the thing: is like in the process of the next 24 hours before I left. I mean, I found the wind map that he was probably using online. You know, like I was like researching the route, like what times I should leave, when I should probably sleep. I was doing a lot of work on my own because, you know, I didn't have any coaches now.
Yeah.
I ended up getting like one guy named Bob that like Dan had done some rides with here, and then like my family, like my wife and like my friend Felipe, and like Felipe and Bob were the ones who were like in the car ahead of me, or not. They wasn't actually ahead of me; it was behind me. Sorry, the car that was like behind me because I wasn't allowed to drive. So the car was behind me, and that was to prevent, you know, that was actually big because it prevented people from like siding me too close. Which I mean, when you're on the shoulder of a highway, like.
No, that's nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So it's like I wasn't really that worried about it.
And for those who haven't made the drive from Vegas to LA, there are huge stretches of nothing. Yeah. Just nothing but desert. 10 miles between exits.
So, yeah.
That's a brutal. But you did it.
Yeah, no, that was...
was it close? I can't remember.
It was close. The wind that they were seeing on the wind map really made it hard on that next day on Sunday or whatever it was, and you know, I fought through it. I took a break in it. I had to go through it again in the evening, and it died during the night, and I made good time. But basically, I mean, it made it close. It made it close. It made it tough. I started to have my left knee was starting to have real big issues about 60, 70 miles out. Like I had to get a compression thing. I got a cortisone shot on the road. Like a doctor met me on the road. Like Cordaid shot, like kept going. I was on like painkiller. I took an Adderall because I hadn't slept much. I mean, it was like, the whole thing was, it was intense. Yeah. And, it was a cool experience. So I mean, really, I'm very glad I did it. I probably will not do that again. Yeah. You know? I'm always listening to offers.
I know that's like the big bet, but I think the funniest one you told me about was the scooter ride to LA in a tuxedo.
Yes. Yeah, no, that was many years ago. That was, my friend had a wedding and I was with Interestingly enough, I was with Dan at the dinner. Seems like these bets go off around Dan a lot. Yeah. And basically Dan really, like, again, led the charge, was like, I'll put up 10,000. He texted people to get like more money. Because I said my number was like 13K. This was like 8 years ago, so my number was a little lower.
Yeah, before you went on your epic run.
So, but yeah, I was like, well, I've got to go there anyway, and...
So this was a wedding in LA. You were in Vegas, and the terms of the bet were that you had to ride a scooter
and do it in the tux.
A motorized scooter, a sit-down motorized scooter.
Yeah,
you weren't like pushing yourself along.
No.
Okay, a sit-down motorized scooter in a tuxedo.
Yeah.
And you have how many hours to do it?
Just had to do it. It wasn't like
you just had to get there.
Yeah. Just how much can we pay you to do this?
Mm-hmm. But didn't you say something?
Actually happened.
Didn't you say something about how you tried to leave at night, but then you ended up going in the middle of the day or something like that?
No. That I did leave. I left at night. I mean, we were at dinner. I got home. I packed. I got it together with my friend's scooter. But you know, I left during the night. And but no, that one I wiped out. Well, that one was different because the car that my friend was driving, Dave was driving, didn't follow me like behind me, so it was like going, and so I was going stretches on the highway like by myself, and like these cars were like trucks like right next to me, and the wind, and I was just like freaking out. I'm like, holy fuck, if like one of these truck drivers is like falling asleep at the wheel and drifts off and hits me, I'm just done.
Yeah, you're dead.
So I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I do not want to risk my life for like $13,000, hoping that, you know, for the next 10 hours, like no truck drivers or people like swerve and hit me because I had no protection like on the shoulder. The shoulder's not even like a car, like not even really like a solid.
No,
car.
you can't. You could barely fit a bicycle.
Yeah, it's like a bicycle lane. So I'm like, okay, this is. So then we started going like the off-road through the like Mojave Desert and stuff. And, you know, there was like some stretches with gravel. And I'm not an experienced scooter rider. And I was like feeling my oats a little too much maybe, or just wasn't aware. And I just took one of the turns without slowing down enough. And the thing just slid out. And I mean, it wasn't like a bad accident, but basically I was, you know, going like 25 or whatever it was, and just like slid, tumbled over gravel, and just tore cuts, messed up the scooter a little bit. Tuxedo ruined. Scooter basically ruined. Although it was still drivable, but it needed serious repairs.
Yeah.
But I drove it for many more hours, and me cut up. My friend Dave, like laughing, get out of the truck, bro, are you okay?
At least he was with you during that stretch.
So
it could have been worse.
That was interesting.
All right, so let's get into some quick questions here. Can you tell me about the biggest or most important pot you've ever won? Whatever that means to you.
Yeah, the biggest pot was I was playing in I think like 2K, 4K, no limit hold'em blind game at the Aria with Chairman. And he folded him in the small blind, and I raised the big, 3-bet the big blind with kings.
Sorry, is the Chairman somebody that everyone should know?
He's just a legendary gambling character from China. We'll put it that way. And the flop was like...
So you 3-bet the big?
Yeah.
And he just flats?
It was like Jack 7-4.
Okay.
With a flush draw with clubs, and I had kings with the king of clubs, and he checks, I bet, he check raised, and we were deep, like we were like 1.5 effective, so you know you're talking like we were like 400 big blinds deep to start playing. So I mean the standard play here is to like call, and I was just like, you know, I mean.
Call and do what? Like
call
up
probably
and
just
fold
not fold.
on a turn?
Just like call down. Call down. But I was like, I decided to re-raise on the flop just because he sometimes check raise like so wide, and I just wanted to push my equity, and I thought
you said this was Jack 7-4 2 clubs?
Yeah. So you know, but if I re-raise, I mean, you can't really re-raise and fold. You're kind of like, I mean, you know, I bet whatever 60, he makes it like 180. You know, I made it. It's not like I'm making it 500 or 40 or whatever folding. I just have to go with it at that point. So, you know, I thought about it and I re-raised, and then he just like snap went all in.
Oh God.
So I mean, it's not like I sat there. I pretty much just like snap called.
Yeah, because there's so many times he's got 9-10 of clubs or something. Right?
It's just, you know, I mean, he was like pretty wild player. Like this is not like the standard play I would normally make against most people, but I just felt that, you know, I wanted to push my equity versus him. And
so this is what, a $3 million pot?
Yeah, basically. And then I kind of like, it was a pause because it's like it's like the huge money in, the dealer's not just going to just like bang out the cards, right?
They know
like,
better.
Wait, like, is there going to be a deal?
How many times are we going to run it? Is someone's going to buy insurance?
I obviously wanted to run it more than one time. So I kind of like looked at him. He doesn't really speak English, but I'm just like, 2 times, you know, gave him like the 2 signal. And then you could tell he was thinking about it a little bit. So he sat back, he kind of like looked, then he like looked at me, just like held up one finger. No words. So then I just, so then.
Wait, but what did he have?
Well, we don't even know at this point. No one has exposed their hands. I mean, I can tell you.
Okay, yeah.
But we're going to keep the suspense.
Okay.
So the dealer doesn't even deal. So then I look at the dealer and say, okay, one time you can deal. So then the dealer deals and it comes like It was Jack 7 of clubs and like a 4. And so it paired the 4, but not a club. And then it came like a 9.
Okay.
So I have a pretty big hand.
That's a good run out.
Yeah, unless he already had me beat with, well, even if he had Jack 7, I'm winning. So unless
he could have gotten counter.
Unless he had a set aces, which is unlikely, or 8, 10 of clubs, or 4 X of clubs, like I have the best hand. And that's not that many hands. Like when you hear what hand he has, you realize like there's a lot of hands. So he doesn't do anything. He's just sitting there. So, but he's like, he was the one to go all in, and he's out of position.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to show his hand. But so I'm sitting there for like a couple seconds, and I'm just like, I know he's like a notorious slow roller, and the last thing I want to do really is like show my hand and get slow rolled for like the biggest pot I've ever played, right? Like that would hurt a lot.
That would be so brutal.
So
$3 million in the middle, and you're just like kings.
And then he's like ace 4 of clubs, and I'm like So anyway, but he has, it's been a couple seconds and he hasn't shown his hand, and I'm just like, well, this is like not a situation where I want to piss him off.
Yeah.
Okay, this is like kind of like a VIP, whatever. If he slow rolls me, I just got to deal with that pain. And I mean, I actually would have been busted, and that was like when I bought into this game. I bought in. Like I brought like 1.4 to the table, or 1.3.
So this is your starting stack.
And I like the buy-in was like 300K or something. Mm-hmm. So I put 400K or something like that. So I put 400K in front of me. Mm-hmm. And like I was told through the translator or whatever, he's like, no, you got to put on like 2 buy-in. You got to put in like 800K because like, and so I was like. So when I put on the 800K, I'm like 1 hand later, I just looked, and it was like, I had like a buy-in left, so I'm like, I might as well just put on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? So I put on the whole thing, and I was up like a sum, and then this pot, so I was, maybe in 1.2, I was up to like 1.5 or a little more, and then boom, this pot.
Can I just stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
How does one get $1.5 million to a casino?
I mean,
is it just a bank wire? Is that how it works, or?
Well, this was in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought this was in Macau. My bad.
And like people took pieces and stuff and whatever, and I don't know. So money magically appears at casinos. I don't know how it happens.
Exactly.
So but
so $3 million in the middle.
Yeah, there's $3 million.
The board's out.
And the board's out.
You don't know if
he's not showing his hand, and I'm like, well, I don't want to piss him off because in all reality, I have a pretty big hand.
Yeah.
I probably have the best hand, I think. And so I just like turn over my hand, and I'm like really hope. I'm like, it's like the suspense. Yeah. So then he's sitting there. He like holds his hand up, which doesn't mean anything. Like cards in front of his face.
Oh.
But then like I kind of really get the feeling that he can't beat me. Mm-hmm. And then when he like shows some other people the cards, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm good. I'm pretty sure this is not.
This is brutal. He's showing other people.
Yeah. So then
let you off the hook.
Then he mucks, and now I'm like, okay.
Yes.
Now I think I'm safe because this would just be like the craziest. Like you can't slow roll anymore. The cards are in the muck.
Yeah.
So then like I win the pot and just we keep playing, and I find out like a little bit later when he left the table or after the session or something that people who saw his hand said he had 5-6 offsuit.
So just an open and a straight draw.
He just had open and a straight draw. That's it.
Ooh.
6 high.
That would have made the beat so much worse.
Oh, if that was a bad beat, yes, thank you. You're right. That would have been really, really tough there because I'm probably he's got 8 outs. And also I could win on the runner flush if he hits a club and another club came. So yeah, it's probably like 70-30, but like for a massively big pot. So that was the biggest, but most important pot. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
one against Phil.
The one against Phil Hellmuth where he had the 8-2 of diamonds or whatever, and I had the king queen, and there was 9-10 jack. I mean that was a pretty important one. I mean I feel like in terms of my recognition in my poker career, that was the most important.
Yeah.
Because, like, if I don't beat Phil Hellmuth, I don't win 2 bracelets that summer. I won the unimportant bracelet that no one cares about, not the 50K. I don't later have 2 50K titles like I have now.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe the 8 deuce of diamonds against Phil. I feel like that really that was it the last year? It might have been the last year when that was all Hold'em. So like that was broadcast on ESPN. Like a lot of people got to see me. So that, I mean, in terms of my poker career, it was probably that one. And that was like I was a favorite, but that was like, we were pretty close in chips.
Yeah.
So
that was for the tournament.
That was for the tournament.
Yeah.
Like if I had lost that, I would have been, a nub against a massive stack and had, no chance to win. So that one's maybe the most important in terms of my like poker career.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the worst bad beat you ever put on anybody?
No.
It's all good. Can you talk about your?
I don't even remember. I don't even remember like the worst bad B I've gotten in like a big pot. I do. One time I played Limit Hold'em, and I do remember that someone hit runner. I think I had like top set, and someone hit a runner under set in order to make
quads.
Yeah. In a Limit Hold'em game, which isn't even like.
Perfect is statistically the hardest.
It's basically the hardest, and that happened, but I don't even remember the exact hand or anything. I mean, it was many years ago.
That's good. It means you can shake it off pretty fast.
Yes.
What was your first big live tournament? Do you remember?
Wow. What's big?
That's the whole point.
Yeah,
what's big to you? For some people, it's their first 10K, or it's the first main event because of all the people, or for some people, it was the first $100 tournament they put up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, man. I'm old now, so 35. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. I mean, maybe it was like the first year I played in a World Series of poker tournament. I don't know had I played anything big before that. I mean, really early in my career, I did not play many tournaments. Maybe my first 10K. I think the first summer I played at the World Series, I played the main event. I lost that summer at the World Series. I remember I came. That was the summer right after, like, I dropped out of college. So maybe it was 04, 05, and I stayed up there for like the spring. Then I came down. I think I went to the World Series that year, and I think I might have played I played mostly cash. I might have played like 1 or 2 tournaments and a couple tournaments, and I think I played the main.
But you don't have like any
if I
distinct
satellited
memories of putting up 10K and like feeling the nerves or whatever your first tournament. I guess you were grinding cash already at the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, tournaments for me for a long part of my career were like kind of just a side thing I was doing. Not like anything serious. Almost like something, I was trying to win, but it wasn't really like the main thing I was playing. So, I mean, I remember that first summer I played the main. I don't know. See, the thing is, I can't remember if I satellited in or put up the 10K.
Okay.
But I do remember the first summer I played the main. It was like the only time. I think it was the only time since this year, or I guess last year now. I think the first summer and last year were the only times I went out on day one.
Oh, really?
But I did go out on day one the first year I played. I remember I got kings to aces in like the second or third level.
Yeah.
And I was short. And I battled and I like built it up some, but I
finally get kings.
Last level of day one, I went out, on whatever, some hand. But like, I mean, I do remember that, and I remember that just being like the cap to like a frustrating summer.
Yeah.
I came to Vegas, like the dream. This is my first World Series. I'm here, this, and then
even when it doesn't go well, at least you have the main. At least you have the main event.
No, there was no was not a storybook first year. I lost money overall. I went back to Poway. I lived with my parents for like the next year or something. I'd travel some to like LA, Commerce, and to play poker, but I'd stay at home. I was playing. I made some money, but there's no like storybook tournament thing for like a long time. In fact, actually, I did go through a period like shortly after I moved to Vegas, 2 years later. So maybe it was like 3 years later, where I had a downswing, and then in the like first couple months of some year, and you can look this up on a site online. like I played like a decent amount of online Sunday tournaments. And I had a stretch where I was like doing very well. Like I started to try to learn some tournament theory. You know, I got some books, talked to some people, and was, you know, improved my tournament game some.
Yeah.
And after that, I played a little more tournaments live, but still didn't really travel much. Starting to have a little more success. Starting to knock. You know, I was getting better. I knocked on the door. I had like a stretch before 2011 where, and by this point I was playing like high stakes poker. So like most of the tournaments I were playing were like 10Ks or like I was playing, you know, satellite to the 25K WPT. I played the 40K in Vegas.
Oh, I remember the 40K. Yeah.
And I had a stretch where I had some close run-ins in big spots.
Yeah.
Like I got one of the years when the 25K was really big. I think the year Yevgeny won, like I got 7th in like a massive pot, ace king to kings. You know, like Yevgeny actually won ace king to kings like a little earlier than that to stay alive, but I lost the ace king to kings in like a kind of a stupid spot. It was like bet 3-bet and I 4-bet shoved ace king, and like it was Harder had been 3-betting Yevgeny like a decent amount.
Christian Harder, recent PCA winner,
and so I 4-bet shoved, which is pretty standard, but Yevgeny actually had the kings as the initial raiser.
Oh, wow.
Which is like brutal. Yeah. Harder had, I think he actually had like ace something.
So you missed the TV final table.
I did.
Oh, brutal.
I haven't been to it. I don't think I've ever been on a WPT TV final table. And like that same year, I like got 11th or something in the 40K. I actually busted to the winner of that one as well. God, what's those guys? The Lunkin.
Vitaly Lunkin.
Yeah, I had kings and he had pocket fives.
Yeah.
And he hit a 5. And it was just like, I was like starting to really knock on the door in some big spots and, you know, it was frustrating. But, you know, things worked out.
Number 10 all time for a guy who doesn't really consider himself a tournament guy.
Recently, in the last like 2 years, 2016, 15, maybe even some of 14, I played a reasonable number of tournaments. Between like ARIA stuff and the WSOP and going to a couple stops, you know, but yeah, I it's hard for me to say that anymore. Tournaments are a reasonable part of the diet now, you know.
So who's the best poker player we've never heard of?
So yeah, I'm gonna give you 2 guys.
Okay.
So this is mostly in no limit hold'em, but also in PLO. There's a guy who. Not sure if he qualifies today, but like a couple years ago when I was going to Macau, there was a English lad there named Andy Mosley.
Okay.
So, who I thought he played really, really good. I love the way that he played, and he made a lot of money there, and he made a lot of money in poker in general, online and stuff, and whatever. And he's done well, but I think he's working for like. What's one of the big sports booking operations in England or something now, and like, you know, he still plays poker some, but it's not like his total main thing anymore. Yeah. So like, I'm not sure if he's like really been studying super hard, and I haven't played with him much in a couple years. Yeah. But in my opinion, he was like absolutely one of the best like live deep stack, like no limit hold'em players. And like people don't really know who he is. Andy Mosley. I thought he played like super, super good.
Andy I think gets the shout out.
Anybody who went to Macau much would probably agree exactly with what I'm saying. And I think a couple really good all-round players today that so one is Keith Gibson.
Okay.
Who's a good friend. He's one of my best friends. And I want to give him a shout out because he's a great all-around poker player.
I think some people will know who Keith is, but maybe not as many who should.
Yeah, not as many who should. Like he's a great all-around poker player, and he doesn't play many tournaments at all. And I think he's one. And another guy who. No, that's probably it. I think
everyone else who sucks.
Anyone else I would name is probably well known. I mean, there's some guys who aren't like super famous, but I mean they're pretty well known. Like Thuritz is good, Andrew Mikhail Thuritz, like they're very well known poker players. So some yeah.
All right, so then you're at the table. The dude next to you is super annoying. He's got to put the headphones on. What are you listening to?
I have
A poker playlist?
the two main things that I listen when I play poker is I have a SoundCloud poker a playlist that I've made that I listen to a lot in the last year or 9 months, or I don't know, however long I've been since I made it. And it's mostly like electronic music.
Okay.
It still hasn't gotten totally stale yet, but I have gone through this thing a lot. I think it's very, very good. And the other thing is sometimes I listen to just some like random classical music, especially if I really
To keep you off tilt?
no, just I don't like listening to music with words really, or if it's like sometimes techno music has like a few words, but it's just not important. What
Just
they're
repeating
saying.
the same thing over and
Yeah,
over
so,
again.
like, but I don't want like lyrics, like actual lyrics where someone's trying to say something and convey meaning through.
Because then
the
your brain
lyrics.
focuses on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I the whole point of the music is more to kind of like get in like focused, almost kind of like flow state where I'm
This
just
is a
like
bad
focusing on
habit,
what I'm doing.
but I do a similar thing with TV at night to fall asleep, where
Yeah.
I'll listen to a show that I've heard 1,000 times, and that just kind of hypnotically puts me to sleep. It's terrible for me,
Yeah.
they say, but it's
Well,
what I do.
Apparently, have you heard about the blue light thing? You know about
No,
blue light?
what's the
Okay,
blue light?
So
Oh, is that the thing that slowly gets brighter to wake you up in the mornings?
it's no. So blue light, which is like what comes out of monitors and some lights and whatever, and like most TV, like all TVs and everything, is like similar to sunlight, and it like messes with your body's circadian rhythm and just like sensory, because it kind of makes you think it's like during the day.
Okay.
And so I've read a lot of stuff that at night, like I have on my phone, I have at some point maybe it's already on, like it starts filtering out like some of the blue light, and so it looks like yellowish.
Oh, okay.
And your phone, like
what is it kind of trick? I got an iPhone.
Yeah, like go to settings
Okay.
and go to display and brightness, and then
Done.
you'll see night shift.
Oh, I'm turning it on.
So, and you can set like the hours, and you can set like how, and if you go to it, you can set
Well, I'm gonna enable
the
it.
temperature. But you see
Oh,
when you enable
it turned yellow.
Yes, and so, and you can actually download a program like f.lux for your computer, or your I don't have it on my Mac, on my laptop, and so it does the same thing. So that when you're using your monitors, the light's filtered, so it's not keeping you awake.
You know what this looks like? You ever put on a pair of HD Visions? Those cheapo sunglasses they sell on TV?
No, is that what it looks like?
You ever seen the infomercial for HD Visions?
No.
Like people's like, oh, it's so bright, and then like everything turns yellow.
It looks like this. Oh wow. Oh, okay, that's what they're doing, yeah. Filtering it out.
Yeah, basically.
So like the yellow thing.
Exactly. But they're just cheapo plastic, $10 sunglasses.
I would check this out. I mean, have you ever noticed it seems like it's so much easier to stay up late, like in front of your computer monitor, some of it is just
for sure.
light. It's not just that you're using your brain. Some of it's just the fact that you're like,
right, because when
in
I'm
front of your
reading a
screen, it's
book,
just like a bunch of light.
you read a book versus reading a Kindle. You're on a Kindle, you're going to stay up a lot longer than if you're
That's exactly
turning
why.
pages. Yeah.
And it's like either way, you're kind of like, you could be reading the same thing, but it's just that you naturally get tired at night. That's where you're supposed to go to sleep. So, like one of the things in modern society is kind of like learning how to life hack some of that stuff to get, to be more healthy. So,
Like with the meditation.
Yep. I'll tell you that I'm very thank you, Dan Smith, and for recommending that. I'm very happy with it.
The very charitable Dan Smith, as he's been
Yes.
known for in recent weeks.
That was I just saw today on Twitter. It also looks like it just inspired Andrew Roble to like do the same thing.
Oh, really?
Andrew just decided to do a matching charity drive. So he just announced it today.
See, guys, poker players give back. This one I'm going to ask you just because you played with the guy. There's only one Doyle right now, right?
Doyle.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's only one Doyle. There's only one poker pro. I asked this of Scott Seaver in our last interview. Who's going to be the Doyle of your generation? Assuming there's one. Assuming only one of your group makes it to his age and is still playing in whatever the Aria or Bellagio is called at the time. Who do you see? Do you think it could be you? Do you want it to be you?
I think...
Or will there
Phil
never
Ivey?
be another Phil Ivey?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into being Doyle,
Yeah.
right? So some of it is like Doyle, very good poker player. But also like he played basketball. He has always loved betting sports. He used to play a lot of golf, bet a lot on golf. Doyle loves betting on everything.
He's not just a poker legend. He's a gambling legend.
Yeah. And it's I think Phil kind of more fits that bill. Like Phil, yeah, he's a great and accomplished poker player, but he's also plays golf, bets a lot on golf, bets a lot on whatever he does, kind of like Doyle, just betting on everything. And I
bet Doyle never rode his bike from LA to Vegas though.
Yeah. I mean, what else? Phil. It strikes me that Phil likes, Phil maybe he'll be playing into his old age, He's already 40. He may could do another 40 years. I mean, that's another thing too, is who's going to be playing poker. I mean, I think I'm always going to play poker, but I kind of wonder will I always play? I wonder how much did Doyle, I still play a lot, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might be I would say I'm a reasonably good candidate to be similar to Doyle in the poker aspect of things, of playing a decent amount, all the games, whatever anyone plays, for a lot of money.
But Doyle played college basketball, and you were cut from your team in high school.
Doyle's, I'm no Doyle Brunson, but I'm just saying in terms of playing into my old age, I got a shot, but I'm not nearly as sick a gambler as Doyle is.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've done some big prop bets, but Doyle, bet on the games, bet on the golf, a lot of action all the time. Having a couple isolated prop bets here and there, I feel is not. I mean, it's okay, but not quite. Yeah. Whereas I feel maybe Ivy's a little bit.
Ivy's bet on everything.
More of the bet on everything. So, but no, I mean, I like poker. And I've recently, it's I've had enough success in big spots in my career that I kind of feel that stuff like the Poker Hall of Fame and just being remembered as one of the best poker players is achievable, which is one of the reasons why I've kind of recently gotten motivated and kept playing tournaments.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of this is a public thing that I can have that's kind of I keep doing this along with, playing the cash, and it kind of keeps my name out there and, can be something that I've accomplished at some point.
Well, I
for
think
my family, whatever.
Your first ballot. I think 5 years you're a first ballot lock, but that's just.
Do they have? Oh, you mean as in first year?
Yeah.
First ballot, yeah.
I think
so.
You'll get it, unless you happen to be the same age as two other legends who are qualifying at the same time. But I think you got a good shot.
There's some people who. But a lot of it, we're all different ages.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like Mercier and Seaver.
Find out who's 35 right now.
Seaver's younger than me. I think Mercier might be younger than me.
Jason's definitely younger. I think Jason's 31, maybe 32.
Yeah, Antonio's 2 years older than me. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to do it. So, I mean, there's a lot of it's a lot of people are all kind of the people who I'd say are wow, pretty locky.
Yeah.
At this point, younger guys. So, we'll see. I don't know. I mean,
5 years from now, calling it.
Yeah.
You got my vote.
I think
I get a small vote. And
I will say, true story. I'll be a little hurt if I didn't make it. I feel like I've accomplished enough, just objectively speaking.
Yeah.
So, and I
tournaments
still have 5
and
years
cash
to go.
games. Yeah.
So, unless some I'm going to just knock on wood and just end the conversation there.
Yeah. You don't have to go any further.
Yeah.
All right, so we end every podcast the same way with a question from a random question generator. Yeah. Whatever pops up, you got to answer it.
Okay.
That's the rule. So
that's just the rules.
Just so we can sweat it here, just so I'm not... That's so boring. What do you do in your spare time? I'm not going to deal with that. You ride bikes across the country. Everyone knows that.
Spare time. I learn. I love science. I try to exercise and stay healthy now. We're getting...
All right. How about that one?
Plate. Oh, my favorite home-cooked dish.
Favorite home-cooked dish.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is a Brazilian dish.
Oh, let me think about that.
Maybe not.
Let me think about that.
Your wife's not here yet, so you don't have to insult her.
Favorite home-cooked dish.
Are you a cook? Do you like to cook?
I'm not much of a cook. My wife says the few things that I throw together, she says I do a good job. Mm-hmm. She says, like, you make a good salad. No, the truth is if you make a good salad, you're not a cook.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to cook a salad.
No, I don't cook. My favorite home cooked
Bunch of people are coming over.
Juliana. Okay, so
what's your go-to?
One of my favorite home cooked things for sure. That's kind of like a Brazilian thing that Juliana's brother actually does really well. Is our friend Felipe makes a really mean. So there's a Brazilian barbecue. They call it churrasco.
Yeah.
And our favorite cut of meat, Juliana and me, like bar none. Like when we go to the places like Texas de Brazil, whatever.
Fogo, via Brazil.
Although Texas de Brazil's better than Fogo.
I think Texas is the best.
It's better than Fogo. Although none of these places...
I feel like we're kindred spirits, and you're going to say my favorite cut of meat. Because I'm one of those guys, everyone's who's like, let's go to 9, let's go to Ruth's Chris. Oh, I'm like, why? For $60, you can get all you could eat at Texas de Brazil, and it's excellent.
What's your favorite cut?
I'm a flank steak guy, but with like a tonic chimichurri on it.
Okay. I'm a picanha guy.
I love picanha, though.
So picanha is our favorite
I'd
cut.
rather have that than like a filet mignon or something.
No, you can... I would definitely rather go. So I would definitely rather go to Texas than most steakhouses. Mm-hmm. I love cut. Cut's good. There's a couple steak places that are
great
better.
Places.
But like I'll tell you, and this is what I was about to say. Texas de Brazil is not like the best picanha I've ever had. Not even close. Like there's places in Brazil that are a lot better. I've even had, like, personally, I think our friend Felipe just does it better here, or like Juliana's brother in Brazil. So favorite home cooked meal, Felipe here, our friend, and my wife, a good friend of my wife and me, and Juliana's brother in Brazil make a really mean picanha cut, just like at home, salt, like spices at home on the barbecue, like, yeah, no, that's up there.
That's the winner for me.
Yeah.
If I'm on death row, that's where I want to go before I make the final walk. You know what I mean?
So I'm even trying to think, like, what else home cooked? That's probably
it.
That's probably it.
That's the winner, man.
So
anyway, you've made me hungry, and I'm gonna let you go. So thank you so much for inviting me into your home. How long? Well, you used to be a high-rise guy, right?
Yeah, I used to live in Panorama.
But, I was just there with Scott.
Oh yeah.
Scott Seaver still lives there. Yeah,
up into his place.
Yeah, he was telling me that
Nick,
not
right. Him and Nick, or
I don't remember if he had a roommate. I didn't see one, but I was asking him if there was still a lot of poker players, and he said that most of them had moved on. So
really,
yeah, you too moved out to the suburbs.
I wonder if it's. Definitely, maybe some have moved, but I wonder if there's like more like younger guys that have gone there that he just doesn't like.
The new generation has moved in.
Like, because Scott's, he's getting up there. He's 30 now or something like that.
Yeah.
So, once you start hitting your 30s, it's like, oh, you get a wife, maybe you get kids. It's not, you get dog. It's like house.
Yeah.
So, the Panorama is not really the move anymore. But I think maybe I wonder how much of it is him getting old or how much of it is like really poker players aren't going to Panorama anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a question for the ages.
The eternal question. Brian, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
That will do it for Poker Stories this week. Huge thanks once again to Brian Rast, who you can follow on Twitter at Czar Rast. That's TSARRAST. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Please.